Well, hello there, YouTube, and welcome to another Cat's Dream. Today, we're actually going to be something completely and utterly different. We're actually going to be talking comic books, films, theories. We're actually going to start off with something that I used to watch right at the beginning. But before we get into what I used to watch and what I used to do, let me introduce you to the new panel for tonight. Obviously, you all remember Mr. Crumplepoint.
Hello, hello.
And we also have somebody else on today. And I can't remember the second part of their name because I'm such an amazing person.
It's Switchpoint. We're related.
Yes, that is right. I am the Switchpoint. I am just a random Canadian dude who does random streams every once in a while. And I was invited here because I was told like there's some comic speak that needs to happen, both Japanese and American comics. So, I seem to be the guy for that.
You are indeed. You are literally, as your name says, you are the switch point. You are the ones that we're able to make a connection through and make sure that we actually understand what's going on. Apart from me, because I can't remember your name, because I'm that much of a dick.
I mean, I expect nothing less. So
he knows me already. This is going to be a good stream. He knows me already. But we're going to start off with something that I used to do when I was a lot younger. I used to watch a TV program that started off as a manga. That is Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. So it's a case for me. I always used to watch Dragon Ball Z all the time. A lot of people would have disagreements about what one's better. Personally, I don't really care on what you think what one's better. I just love the story building in both and how they follow on from each other and how they pick up from all the characters and past events that have happened to lead up to future events that happened, and everything's all inclusive and it's a continuous story rather than it being a episode that happens once and then changes every time it comes on. So that's something that I used to grow up watching. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you guys like that sort of idea of people watching different cartoons from different places, or do you like the idea of Dragon Ball? Or
well, I mean, I grew up watching like cartoons from different places. Like I watched. So when I was like growing up, I watched. There was a show called Obon Racers that was from from French cartoons. I used to watch like American cartoons like Looney Tunes, Duck Dodgers. I watched like Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon.
Sailor Moon, I haven't watched that in years, but I think if I watched it now, it'd be a case of I'd be called something completely different to what I used to be called watching it.
Yeah, like all these are all these are like different types of show. All these come from different areas. So, like I watched all of them. I still watch cartoons now because I mean I'm a big cartoon guy. But the thing like Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z would bring into it was Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z would really delve into the idea of like martial arts and like the animated version of martial arts, and what that would be like. And what's really Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball was about like the adventure where it's like the characters are learning and they're growing, but like you're starting to learn more about the world. And that's me personally. I enjoy that because I like the world building aspect of Dragon Ball. But Dragon Ball Z was still pretty fun because I love the choreography and the fights in Dragon Ball Z, or specifically Dragon Ball Z Kai, because Dragon Ball Z was filled with fillers.
Yeah, definitely. I do like exactly what you said about the Dragon Ball, the first initial point, Akira Toriyama's first. Well, not his first foray, in actual fact, it was one of his last mangas that was ever actually going to create. But I absolutely love Dragon Ball, especially in its use of from the fight scenes. I remember when Kami took over, which was God, by the way, in Namekian, was able to take over a human called Hero, and was fighting in the World Tournament issue. For people that don't actually know what was going on, basically they had a World Tournament, and this God guy was going to come down and fight in process to make sure that one evil guy didn't win it. It was simple stuff back in the day, all right? It was simple stuff, but it meant the world. And one of the fights that Hero was involved in was a case of Yamcha was going to do a flying kick towards him, and all that Hero did was move to stand underneath him and basically hit him in the nuts. And that's something that I never saw in a cartoon before. That wasn't a slapstick cartoon. Like this was supposed to be a serious-ish version of a cartoon or anime at that point. And it was a case of I'd never seen nobody do that sort of stuff before. Loads of different things like that just blew my mind away at that point in time. Nobody ever thought of doing stuff like that. I just found that fascinating.
Well, I mean, it's that aspect of like Japanese of like when it comes to Japanese style like action shows, specifically ones that lend themselves to more comedic purposes. They're not afraid to go more crass with their comedy, or they're not afraid to like just test the waters. So, like in the fight with Beerus and Goku in Dragon Ball Super, and it's a really good example. Like Goku literally just bites Beerus at one point, just to be like, "Get off me."
Well, that fight, the fighting battle of the gods, obviously, it's kind of very, very similar to how the fight between Goku and Frieza was. I mean, the aspects are similar, where he just can't win. The Frieza's way too strong. Then it's a case that they get on level pegging and things like that. And he still technically needs the help of the explosion to be able to sort things out, or Frieza making a mistake, obviously, at Namek. Mm-hmm. They're very, very similar in that idea of fighting and the style and how it went. Surprisingly enough, it did Akira Toriyama, who wrote it, so it's quite similar. And they were trying to draw in a lot of people today.
Well, that was one of the problems that I had with the whole series. And the reason I never got into Dragon Ball was I watched Dragon Ball Z first, and then, like what Switchpoint was saying about the filler, they would have all these martial arts scenes, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm sold." But then they would go on far too long, and then they were all written the same way. And then what happened was, when Dragon Ball came around, the problem I'd had with Dragon Ball Z as well is, like, I really was sold on the character Goku, and he spent most of his time dead in Dragon Ball Z. So I was constantly wanting to see him and never really getting a chance to do so past like season 3. And then Dragon Ball came along, and it was just like, well, I'm still not getting Goku as I understand him, because it's kid version, and it felt like they didn't know what to do with him. Like, they'd made this character, and he was kind of the star of the show, but they had absolutely no idea what to do with him at the height of his abilities.
Well, I always thought that Dragon Ball was about Goku growing up. I'm pretty sure Akira Toriyama changed sort of tact, and even though Goku was still at the forefront, I think that most of Dragon Ball Z was based on Gohan's ascension, about how Gohan was reacting and changing and being able to do things.
I don't remember the exact interview, so you're going to have to, like, I might be wrong, so if I'm wrong, let me know on Twitter. My name is Switchpoint there, but remember correctly, and by all means, because like I don't like to be wrong if I'm not, but if I remember correctly, Akira Toriyama created Dragon Ball. It was supposed to be Goku's story of like him growing up and becoming a master of martial arts. Dragon Ball Z is Gohan's adventure of like Goku passing the torch to the next kid.
Yeah.
Now, Super is Goku at the height of his abilities.
Yes.
So that's kind of like.
I don't know if they even aired that here. Like when I was young, that is like they will air it
Super. Super was only created last year.
Oh, right.
Super, yeah. So that one's actually like the first, I think, 30, 40 episodes have been dubbed so far. I watched the subs. So I mean, like I was, when it comes to like Dragon Ball fans, we have to kind of like watch the subs because everyone in the community, so everyone in the community, like in Dragon Ball, is so ahead of it that they're like, if you're going to talk about it like on the forums or anything of that nature, you're going to get spoilers, whether you like it or not. So they're like, well, you better keep up with the subs then.
Exactly. That's why if you watch people like Masako X or things like that, it's just like make sure that you've watched it first before you go and watch one of his videos, because it will be a case of he will tell you everything that happened in it. Not completely, but most of it, and you'll lose where you were.
Like when Ultra Instinct happened, which is the final form.
Spoilers.
A lot of spoilers, but I'm not going to like. This is only a small spoiler. There was a song that was released by the team that does the intro and the outro for Dragon Ball Super specifically. I think Akira Toriyama wanted to originally get the original team that did the original theme song for Dragon Ball, but I could be wrong about that part, because a lot of like what happens in that fight are like literally homages to Dragon Ball. But anyway, in the fight, the song goes on, and that song has been wildly popular along the internet. There's been like the English translate, like fan English translations. So there's been the Japanese versions, people doing memes with it. It's ridiculous. Like
That was the other thing as well. Like, was I don't know if is Ultra Instinct like a Super Saiyan thing?
No, Ultra Instinct is not a Super Saiyan transformation. Any being can reach Ultra Instinct, but it takes the level and dedication of a god to be able to get that to the points of the ideas of God of Destruction that can't reach Ultra Instinct. It's kind of like an angel tier level, which is higher than gods in that aspect. So no, it's not a Super Saiyan transformation. It's a transformation that only like preordained people can really get, or really dedicated people.
Yeah, because that was the thing, is I really liked the idea of this sort of Super Bruce Lee, and then they kept like it was like, oh my god, he's a Super Saiyan, and then every time they leveled him up after that, it felt like it cheapened the Super Saiyan moment. Like,
I think Akira. So here's the thing: Akira Toriyama actually hates power levels.
Yes.
Oh, good, because that makes me feel.
It was an American thing that he bastardized towards the end.
Yeah, because
that's why he kept ramping it up. Like that's why he kept ramping it up, because he wanted to show how ridiculous it was, and so he kept like. So then the biggest slap to the face to all the fans was when he created Ultra Instinct, which is that final form, because Ultra Instinct is not a Super Saiyan form; it's a form anyone can attain. So I want to point out, even the weakest character in the show, if they put the time and effort into it, could potentially gain that ability.
Yeah.
So, like, and it's like, and as a fan of the Dragon Ball series myself, like the Dragon Ball Z, and like the mythos of the universe myself, I was actually glad to see that, because what that does is creating something like that pretty much puts everyone back on like level footing again.
Yeah.
And that's rather than being all about like skill and power, like rather than being all about power level. And then the great thing about Super is it brings back skill as an aspect, where like
yeah, that was a big thing for me, because it was like and it makes perfect sense. The guy hated it, because when you say that, it makes sense to me, in that it felt really unnatural and stapled on, and you know, the first couple, particularly the first season of Dragon Ball Z, it was like, well, there was the focus on the training and the martial arts, and actually precision and speed more than like, oh my god, balls of fire. And then when he just powers up and up and up and up, and it's basically just like a hair change and some steroids, I was like, this just doesn't fit with the rest of the stuff. So the fact that it was stapled on kind of makes sense to me now.
Yeah. Now,
Well,
go ahead. Sorry,
the idea of battle power was actually brought on by Fuji TV. They wanted a way of being able to gauge who was stronger without people actually fighting, because people also used to like Yamcha, Tien, the backup characters, so to speak, that have come future on. They actually liked them and would always try to suggest who would win in the fight with them. And since Dragon Ball, none of them would have had to fight, because they were always fighting external fighters in Dragon Ball Z. So it was put there from Fuji TV to gauge power levels, to say who did this, where their power levels were going. And to me, I thought it was interesting, but I thought it was stupid, because the reason why Fuji TV actually come out of it was because the Dragon Ball Z series was actually supposed to end after the Frieza fight. It's the reason why it dragged out for so long. It's because it was supposed to end there, and it wasn't supposed to end with either Frieza or Goku winning. It was supposed to leave completely and utterly finished as Goku turned Super Saiyan for the first time, to say that he's now reached Ascended Saiyan sort of thing. As he's become a legend, and leave it as that. And that's the reason why after the Frieza saga, and it goes into all the other sagas and things like that, Battle Power just goes completely and utterly stupid, because it was Akira Toriyama taking the piss out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like that now that you mention it that way.
Like,
because I was just it felt so artificial. So now that you're saying, well, yeah, it was meant to be, I'm like, yeah, I see it.
Now, if you want someone that does like the power ramp up and does it like properly, I'm going to bring it up, is because like I started watching now. I used to watch Power Rangers back in the day, which surprisingly, this one's a fun one, because Power Rangers was a mixture of Japanese and American culture kind of like combining.
Did you want to know something that's really interesting? Akira Toriyama created Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And so the Power Rangers is kind of like, so what Power Rangers is like, that's the American brand, and the original Japanese brand is called Super Sentai.
Yes. That's
And I started, I've started watching, like, I started watching Super Sentai. It's 100 times better, in my opinion, than Power Rangers. Power Rangers has like this thing where it tries to keep an American idealization in it.
Yeah.
And since Saban got the rights back, Saban has trying to hit the same stride of what the original Power Rangers was, but can never hit it. And I'm like, you shouldn't be trying to do that. You should just be trying to make the current season something of its own, right?
Well, they tried that so much with Turbo and Rangers Lost in Space, and they fucked the franchise out in that.
Yeah. So me myself, I've been watching with the Super Sentai, some of the Common writers. So I'm gonna be like cliche. My favorite Common Rider is Common Double, Common Rider Double, the one that's like more of a reference to the original Common Riders. But then also like I love the when it comes to Super Sentai, I just recently finished watching Coup Ranger, which is Coup Ranger is the Space Rangers. It's Space Ranger, Coup Ranger, which is basically based on like Constellation Ranger. That's basically what they're calling themselves. And they use constellation-based powers. So like one is Leo, the Red Ranger. Then you have like Libra Gold. You'll have like Aphiscus Silver. Like each one is based off of an existing constellation, and then they basically base their powers off those constellations. But what I like about that is that one has so using Super Sentai as a standard, it does ramp ups properly, because what it does is the ramp up is based off of like multiple features. So if we get a new member, our power is ramped up a bit because, well, we have more fighting power on our side. Like we'll get a new robot, we might get one or two new members who then have their own power sets to add to like our already ridiculous power set. Then certain things will happen, like, okay, the Red Ranger or the Blue Ranger, whatever Ranger, will get like a power up. So the Red Ranger will get like a battleizer. It's not something like, oh, well, I'm more powerful. No, it's literally, I got a cannon that I'm like wearing on my back now. Like, that's a proper power up, because then you realize, yeah, that's probably going to be destructive. You know?
Like, it does make more sense. It does make more sense. I mean, how do you think that the ideas of that have been able to transfer to the Americanized versions of comic books? Because even though that we've been talking about Dragon Ball Z and obviously Power Rangers in itself, and actually trying to understand the reasons why Power Rangers actually jumped on to another of Akira Toriyama's ideas, Sonti Sentai, why is it a case of they try to emulate it? And is it a case of Marvel and DC necessarily trying to emulate it with an American pact, or was it a case of them having their own ideas in their own time?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both, actually. I mean, like, to be honest with you, there are clear influences from certain Japanese things. Like, you'll see references that, particularly like scenarios where a character will do like a JoJo pose, or they'll do like a Power Ranger like pose. Heck, there was even like a Power Rangers Justice League crossover recently, right? Yeah. So I think there is that kind of oh, there is a Japanese aesthetic. We know that people like this. And I think Crumple would probably agree with me to some degree.
Yeah, that is actually, you psychicked me there, because that was one of the things I've argued with people. They try and get me to read manga all the time based on it being manga. I've had, don't worry, I've had people recommend good ones based on the fact that they like the actual story, but a lot of the time people are like, oh, it's, you'll like it, and it's like, well, no, a lot of the stuff is actually relying so much on that aesthetic that I don't get anything out of it, because if you strip all the manga tropes away, a lot of the time there's not much story there. And I realize that's a heavy generalization. I'm just talking about like average stuff you'd pick up, you know what I mean? Like if you just picked something randomly, and it's like I do feel they rely so much Japanese stuff in general, and then it's even worse when our lot try and steal it, because they're stealing the aesthetic, you know?
Yeah,
and they don't even use it properly.
I would just like to say that I think that there are a lot more in-depth stories in manga. For instance, Titans themselves. You have Ghost in the Shell. You have quite a lot of the mainstream ones that have come across, Eagle Riders back in the day and things like that.
Well, but here's the thing, like, you're getting, okay, so we have a thing where both are kind of like taking from each other right now. And I say that because like you'll have things like One Punch Man, which is literally like a reference to not only shonen but also like a reference to big action heroes such as like Superman, Goku, Ultraman, like all these characters that are like these powered up characters. So I was recently watching Just a Robot, and he made a really good point. Like, what if Saitama is not like the most powerful being, but he's already at the power level that he would be at the end of his series, right? And there's not everyone is caught up to him yet. Right? That's an interesting theory. So
is that One Punch Man? Are you saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to pick that up. Probably the animated one, but I really like the idea of it as well because that's one of the things that gets me about it is they realize in that story how important adversity is to a character by taking it away from One Punch Man because he's so powerful that there's no challenge in his life anymore. And I thought, oh, that's a really interesting concept.
Yeah, exactly. And then another one is kind of like take a look at like My Hero Academia, which is trying to do like very much hero aesthetics, still keeping the shonen like idea. Now, we can then bring this over. Like, let's take a look at American manga or American comics, I should say. Sorry. Yeah. So one really good thing that we got in American comics because the shonen idea is starting to like kind of bleed in a little bit now with the good comics, I should say, not the bad ones. The good comics take the aspect of, well, one thing that like people really like from the shonen aspect is a character who then trains or learns something from growth, right?
Yes.
So that's really popular, and I think like you start seeing that. So a lot of Superman, it has like some of the current Superman, I should say, because like some of it's not so good, some of it is. Whereas some of the good ones show aspects of him training his son. So his son is going through a training stage where he then has to remind himself, okay, I was there too, but I'm here to help you through that, right? So certain things like his son accidentally lasering Superman's back, where it's like, it's okay, son. I just need you to like veer it up a little bit and aim here instead, right? And it's like, you know, it's the fact that like, I understand you're still learning, you're still like growing, but with time, with practice, you'll be as good as I am one day, right? And it's like, that's interesting. Another good thing that American comics has done is they have a ceiling. So when it comes to power, strength, like the idealized hero, you're not going to get higher than, let's say, Superman, right? So that's your ceiling right there. But then for like magic, your ceiling is like somebody like Doctor Strange or somebody like Zatanna or Dr. Fate, right? You know these people have mastered it. So like if somebody new comes into the table, they know, okay, I can't beat that, but maybe I can, because they already are masters of it. They know the full trade, but maybe I can at least attain that level or become a master in another way equal to that level. You know what I mean? So that's something that I really like about that.
I mean, one of the stories I actually quite like from DC, actually, believe it or not, is the characteristics between Damian Wayne and how he is with Bruce Wayne and the rest of the Bat family, so to speak. About how he speaks to Dick Grayson and to the others as well. Hey! Hello!
Okay. Of course. We had to mention Ultimate Battle, and of course he has to start the song.
It's all right. It's all right. There's less than 6 seconds.
It's still more than enough for
I heard a little, I think, Weeboing going out, and CSG, I inquired. He sent me the link, and I would love to talk this stuff. I love it, man. CSG, you just went up 10 points in my book.
10 points to Gryffindor.
Hey, I gave President Trump 2 points for giving Vince McMahon a clothesline from hell. So I mean,
yeah, that's fair enough.
It's a clothesline all the way from hell.
There you go. Oh man, I mean, like it's one of those things, right? Like, the weebs agree on a few things. It's like your waifu's always trash because everyone's waifu is trash. We've all at least seen Dragon Ball somewhere, somehow, sometime.
Exactly. Everybody's seen a version of Dragon Ball. If they haven't seen it, they've heard about it, and they can make their own ideas from it. The thing is, the thing that I love about Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, and even now I'm obviously Super, is a case of from 15 years ago, people are still, or actually, sorry, even more than that, close to 30 years now, isn't it? Sorry. Because it ended actually in 85, 86. GT didn't end until 93 or something.
Yeah, GT. I mean, well, Super. Okay, so Super was like never. I don't think it was one of those things that was ever going to get off the floor until like recently, because Akira Toriyama finally said like he's okay with it coming back, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't blame them. Like, it's one of those things where like Funimation just thought it was a dead franchise after GT. And then, like,
that's where I was going with it, though. It was the fact that there were so many fan dubs. I mean, like, you had a Dragon Ball AF that was done on YouTube.
Yeah.
That was interesting. There wasn't the greatest animation part of it, but the story was really interesting.
Market. That was the thing, man. Like, literally, if you have like fan made, like literally actually creating a new series, they realize, let's try a movie. Let's do the Battle of Gods movie. People loved it. Like, all right, there's a market for this, and they did it. And when Dragon Ball Super first came out, let's face it, the animation initially wasn't all that good. And on the remastered versions, it's actually pretty good now. But here's the thing. I think the story continued to progress, and they did give a lot of fan shout-outs. But it's like you guys were saying before, dude, it's the story. And if you draw out a lot of things, and yes, I'm going to say #gamer theory here. Even when Professor Peterson is talking about these different stories, whether it happens to be a religious story, a film story, a Magna story, I can never pronounce that word. I'm sorry. I'm going to butcher it every single time. But here's the thing. It's just there's certain archetypes there, whether it's just kind of like the goofy, childish hero like Goku, whether it's the proud, like stubborn prince like Vegeta. It's folks identify with this, and it's just something you can live that's existential to yourselves.
Yeah,
exactly. Like this also translates to something like American comics, because you have like the farm boy like Clark Kent, and you have like the stalwart kind of like dark Batman kind of thing, right? That's the same thing, right? Like you have those type of characters that like are easy to relate to, because you have somebody like, oh, well, I can relate to that like country bumpkin kind of like attitude, that like that innocent heart is gold like Superman, or I can relate more with that dark brooding Bruce Wayne type who's like always, think first, and then act upon those like instincts afterwards kind of type of character. And that's I think that's why Crumple kind of likes that idea of the American comics.
I feel that I think that's where the culture comes in, is the archetypes are obviously archetypal, but I think that certain cultures emphasize certain ones more. And so the American, Western ones emphasize our culture more than whatever it is that drives the manga style, and that appeals to me more and always has. So I find that interesting too, because it's like you'll often find that the center stage, which archetype's most important over here is not the one that the Japanese like more, or even weebs in general, like not just the Japanese.
Yeah, most people, as you said before, they like adversity. I mean, my favorite, my favorite type of comic books is not Batman, not Superman, not even things like The Flash. Though I do love watching The Flash on the TV show. But my favorite one is the Green Lantern, because there's so much aspects to the different stories. There's so many different layers to how the different characters, how they interact, the reasons why they're doing what they're doing, how their emotions are based in their rings, and how the actual Green Lantern themselves has a very strong chance of dying. But even after they have a chance of dying, they can be brought back with the white light, or the white ring, so to speak. And I absolutely love that, the definition and how deep they go into the story, where I think certain comic books go into certain archetypes that have already been made, where you have, okay, well, Batman's going to do this, he's going to get caught, or Robin's going to get caught, or whatever, and it's going to be a case that he's going to have adversity, there's going to be a bomb in place, he's going to have to do something on a time trial, and the story is quite repeatable. Not always, but generally.
Now, CSG, you just brought up something like with the Green Lantern and stuff. Like, would you say maybe that's kind of like a Christ-like archetype? Because, and I'm not a huge I'm not very knowledgeable on Green Lantern, but from what I understand, their limit is basically the power of their mind along with the current power in their ring charged from the lantern. So basically you have the powers of the god, but you still have the ability to die like a mortal man.
Yes.
So Green Lantern is actually, there is some godlike aspects behind the Green Lantern, but they're treated more like a police force of like space sectors because so Green Lanterns are a strange aspect because there is there, depending on which continuity you're reading, a Green Lantern, if they have like enough willpower to use their ring, because green is based off of willpower, they can technically be more powerful than Superman. Now that's really draining on the ring and on themselves to do that, but they can do it. Like aspects of somebody who doesn't have strong enough willpower indicates there's like a burning feeling when they try to use the ring that like physically hurts their body. So you have to have the constitution to even be able to do it.
So that almost sounds like in Naruto, 8 Gates Guy. When he unleashes that final gate, in order to open up the gates, you need to have a certain level of willpower, training, and fortitude.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly a similar scenario, right? Now, the fun thing about the Green Lanterns, or the aspects of the emotional spectrum, which I love about it, because I mean, I'm really big into the Green Lantern lore, was so there's like each color represents a specific emotion. So green being will, you have like yellow or the Sinestro rings, which like represent fear. So they don't like, so they feed off of the fear of other people that they can instill upon other people around them. Then you have like scenario where there's like the Orange Lantern, who is avarice. So there can ever only be one Orange Lantern usually because of like the greed is that like the lantern itself actually like overwhelms you with its own level of greed. There was a time where the Orange Lantern even took his ring off and he was afraid of how greedy of a person he became and like the things that he did.
Wait a second. You're saying rings could corrupt people?
Yeah.
There'd never be a successful American story about that.
No, right? Crazy.
There might be a successful English one though.
Well, that's the thing. You're talking about obviously the Aberrus there, as you quite rightly said, the greed man. The thing is, he was known as Aberrus the Collector because he went around streaking worlds and putting the worlds into glass containers like snow globes.
No, you're not thinking about a different story because, like, in the Green Lantern lore, his name is Lord Fleas. He doesn't actually collect worlds, but he sees things and he wants them. So the funny thing is, when he learned about other lights, he wanted the other lights, and he's like, I want the Blue Lantern. So he would kill a Blue Lantern. One of his tricks was, if I kill a person, it becomes part of my Orange Lantern Corps. So he can create a construct of the Lantern that he killed or whoever he killed to be part of his army. That's actually part of his power, and he hated it because. No, I killed a Blue Lantern. I want my construct to be a Blue Lantern. I want the Blue Lantern power. And it's like, no, you can't have it. That's not how your power works. It's like, no, I want it.
Yeah, seems problematic. Well, hold on, wait a second. So he was literally using social constructs as weapons?
Yeah.
No, he was using constructs as weapons, not social constructs. He was actually using constructs of the person.
Oh, so it's like a golem. He's a wizard.
Yes, he is a wizard, yes.
Well, the Green Lantern powers are actually magical in nature because they're from they actually have like godlike beings that power their batteries.
So it's magic.
Yeah, it's actual magic.
So they can defeat Superman.
Yeah, that's why the willpower is strong enough to be stronger than Superman.
It's a good thing he's on their side.
It's not technically magic. It's a form of magic as well as it is a form of energy. That's the reason why Superman is not adverse to the Green Lantern's powers as much. Like if Superman was fighting somebody like Shazam or Adam, it would be a case of the magic himself, the lightning would actually affect him because it's actually magic that's being used. Where if he's fighting the Green Lantern, because it's energy, it only hits him as it being energy rather than it being magical properties.
Well, no, because I mean, if a Green Lantern has enough willpower, he actually can't hurt Superman. So the magical properties
hurt Superman. You're misunderstanding me. Superman. One of Superman's weaknesses is that he has an aversion to magic.
Yeah, it's like if you get a knife and make it magic, it's just an ordinary, like, it's gonna hurt Superman like it hurts us. But if you make a Green Lantern knife, it's like, okay, you could maybe eventually cut him with it, but it's gonna take a shit ton of power out. You're better using magic.
Okay, so it's not quite like in the new Jumanji where one of the characters' weaknesses is cake, and as soon as they eat cake, they literally explode.
Yeah, like
unless it's magic cake.
Yeah, so Superman is okay. So yeah, okay, I'll agree with you on this, but I mean, like at the same time, you also have to recognize that, like, since the power of the Green Lanterns and all the other Lantern colors, like red, green, yellow, all of them come from a specific god of nature. The reason that it's still like a source, it's still like a source of magic, but like because science is used to like concentrate it, it might lose some of its magical property to some degree. I would agree with that because like because what it is like it does come from a god source. So like there's Ion, the god of like will, who gives like who his energy is used to power the Green Lanterns. Then you have like the one for the Red Lanterns, the one for then you have like Parallax for the Yellow Lanterns, so on and so forth, right? So there are gods that represent each one.
See, Parallax actually affected Superman. He was actually able to take over Superman's body. So
Parallax is pure. Because Parallax is pure. He's all 100% like that. He's all 100% God energy. So Superman doesn't have anything to stop that. Like none of his power sets are like, hey, I can affect a god.
Yeah. Wait, hold on a second. So God energy can translate to magic energy, thereby Super Saiyan Blue Goku should have defeated Superman.
Technically, I mean, they might be on equal footing depending on the version of Superman we're talking about too.
Oh, no. I got a quarrel with Death Battle here.
You have a quarrel. Oh, you have a quarrel with Death Battle. All right. Ask them which version of Superman they want you to fight first. That's the first question you want to ask them, because then you can get them on a catch-22.
Well, you know, Goku just likes to fight everybody.
Goku does like to fight everybody. So here's the thing: like, I've always made the argument if it's a versus battle, the writer will make the decision on who wins.
Yes.
Well, to be fair to Death Battle and Screw Attack, hashtag shoutouts, whatever. But when they do like their little 60-second melee, they just kind of literally base it upon what would the average fan of these folks that kind of has some recollection. It's like, all right, the Flash is really fast, but Sonic the Hedgehog can go Super Saiyan. So it's like, all right, so he's obviously going to defeat the Flash, even though if you technically go it down, he should technically, but whatever. But okay, so you're able to give the fan shout-outs, and they try. Hey, give it to them. They do some research.
They do some research. So Flash is broken. That's the first thing. So Flash is connected to the Speed Force. The Speed Force is literally the fabric of the DC universe.
Yes.
And actually hinted to be the fabric of the Marvel universe, too.
I actually thought that was brilliant as well, because the Speed Force thing, like, they could have just kept it like, oh, he has just super strong muscles that let him run fast, and they actually brought in the idea of the Speed Force. Yeah. And then they worked out that speed is time. So, like, speed is distance over time, so they just kept... They thought, well, that's physics, isn't it? Like, that is space-time.
Yeah.
So now they've got this whole pantheon of speed-related... like, because you've got people like... what'd you call him? Reverse Flash, who, like, he's still dangerous even without his speed, because he understands how the Speed Force works and could, weaponize it. And I thought, that was brilliant. They could have totally just stayed how they were. And just had the, he runs fast. But they went crazy with that idea. I love it.
Yeah. So going back to your Death Battle scenario, Superman versus Goku, because I want to bring this one back.
Yeah.
Here. I'm gonna bring this up to you. So there's a version of Superman who goes through who can actually go through like 6-dimensional science, depending on what your definition of 6-dimensional science is.
Superman Prime.
No, not Prime. There's actually a version of Superman who's lived millions of years, and he can go through space-time, and he can go through. Not only can he go through space-time, he can go through dimensional time.
I don't think it's a fair thing though, because let's not remember that Goku was basically invented to be Superman +1, so Superman's never going to beat him because it's the +1 thing. It's not really
But here's the thing: Goku only works on the 3rd dimension, right?
Does he?
Yes, he does.
What about Ultra Instinct when he comes back? Because he kind of transcended some dimensions there and worked his way out of the singularity.
Actually, there's a good point.
So that one
Goku has died 15 times, and Superman's only died once.
Zenkai boost, man! Zenkai boosts.
Yeah, but that's still not going into a different dimension. All it is your soul is transferring. Just because they say that it's a different dimension doesn't mean it is. And most of the time, he's being.
This is where it gets a little iffy. Now, I would recommend. So here's the thing: this is where it gets a little iffy. Is I can't really decide who would win overall because of certain aspects. So if we're basing base Superman and base Goku, the base of let's say the best ones of equal talents, I would say would include New 52 Superman and maybe up to Super Saiyan 2 to Super Saiyan 3 Goku.
Depends on the version. That's the thing, dude. It ultimately comes down to which version you're using, how many times of infinity are they powerful.
Yeah,
exactly. And see that this is the problem, right? So like this is why I have a problem with Death Battle's like argument of it, because I mean I'm a fan of both characters. I want to point that out. Like Superman's one of my favorite comic book characters, and then I have like Goku is one of my favorite anime characters. So looking at these things is like, no, the amount I know about the two of them. Like, let's say I was to take like, so if I take Ultra Instinct, which is Goku at his like prime, like best Goku, right? Ultra Instinct, 100% like full control of it, right? Okay, that would be the best at Goku right now that we know of, at least until whatever else shows up. Now, to be comparable with that with the Superman, I'd most likely have to go with something like, I don't know, maybe like End of Day Superman, or like one of the Supermans that like literally has godlike powers, because then it would be comparable, right? Because I can't.
They also said in Kingdom Come as well, like Superman who's 55 or something by that point, and they were like, yeah, fighting 30-year-old Superman's one thing, but he's just like had 20 years extra solar radiation exposure, so it's like nothing on. They had to basically assemble all the Legion of Doom and half the Justice League just to take Superman down and not even kill him.
I'm gonna bring up a new one for you, because this is one I actually like learned about recently. So here's something interesting I learned about Ben 10 Ultimate Alien Forms.
Oh God.
What?
Yeah,
love it.
So Ben 10 has Ultimate Alien Forms, which it makes it okay. Ben 10.
I'm sure Ben 10 has lots of things, but you shouldn't know what they are or be telling us about them.
But Ben 10 is like, so Ben 10 is a broken character, because the guys who created the TV show did not think about it. Ultimate Alien Forms basically create a version of the alien that's ultimately like evolved to like the nth degree. When it says like, oh, like it went through 1 million years of evolution, like in the perfect stasis kind of thing. So imagine if like Ben 10 were to take like something like a Superman, and he was like, and it was, but like it was, and yeah, like in ultimate Kryptonian form, but like it was also put into a sun. Like the Omnitrix was like set up in a certain way that it would keep it in the sun for like 1 million years as well, a blue sun as well.
So what you're saying is Ben 10 is hacks with Game Genie plus just redoing the entire MPQ files.
Yes, yeah. That's why people say that Ben 10 can beat both Superman and Goku.
See, I always thought it came down to that he had the Power Rangers like communicator. It's like Charizard.
Oh, wait, wrong. No. Now Ben 10's biggest issue though is like his ego is his biggest problem, and like the other thing that runs into him is like the system doesn't want to work half the time for him. So like those are the biggest things he has to like argue with.
Technology is great when it works.
Yeah.
But there is one little catch with his Omnitrix. If there is a world-destroying event or something that is going to destroy the creator, the person wearing the Omnitrix at that time, he will cycle through every single alien to try to find a source to stop it before dying. It actually does that.
That sounds almost like an instinct. One may say it would be super.
Maybe ultra.
Maybe ultra, yeah, I was going to say that. Maybe
let's not push our luck.
Oh, man. Like, I love this. I love this kind of thing. Like, this debate of, like, who would win, and then Ben 10 got thrown. I love it because, like, in the last year, Ben 10 got thrown into it.
No, dude. Here's the thing: you set up a matrix, and you're dealing with all different universes. But if you're going to be consistent, and I always hear this in the Dragon Ball versus Chakra. Oh, Goku doesn't have chakra. He has. I'm like, it's essentially the same freaking shit. You were arguing semantics at this point.
I was going to say that's what they actually say that their energy and their life force is. That it is a form of chakra. It is their life energy. It's even written in the bloody Dragon Ball when they're first learning how to fly. It's about putting.
Well, see, the life energy is like Genkai. Because like when you're doing the spirit bomb, you're putting your hands in the air and you're surrendering some of your actual life force. The key is like it's kind of like your magic points or something like that.
What if I create a new ultimate being?
The Genki Dama, which is the spirit bomb or the translation of spirit bomb.
Yeah, let
me create a new ultimate form for you. Spirit energy bomb.
Let me create a new ultimate form for you. What if Goku and Kakarot were to fuse? Kakarot and Kal-El. Like so. Clark and Goku, Superman, and or Super Saiyan, they were diffused. So, it's an interesting idea. Like, so just a robot again. Like Goel. His name is Goel.
Goel. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Just a robot, actually. Yeah, but no, you're right. Like, it's a fusion of the two. So Just a Robot actually discussed this, and like the idea of it, I liked it because it was actually a really good video. I haven't watched it. Was the idea of, okay, well, he'd have Goku, like, so he'd have Superman's kind of like composure and like to hold him back from being like dumb like Goku was, right? He'd have like ki energy like Goku, so then he'd have like the power
And the
of ki,
tail.
and potentially the tail. Yeah, like he'd even have like he'd have the laser eyes, and he could power up the laser eyes with the ki, right? Then he'd also, because the laser eyes is a physical ability the same of the Kryptonians. It's not a ki energy thing, so he can power it up with ki now. So that's just crazy.
He could double dip from the sun. He could like absorb Genki as well as just the actual. Oh, dude, OP.
Yeah, like it's a new ridiculous, right? Now that's another thing, right? Like it's like little things like it's not it for me, it's not the verses that's fun anymore. It's finding these just ways to break all the characters. Right? That's why Ben 10 was fun for me to put that in there, because I'm like, well, that's just another new broken toy to put into the mix. Or this fusion between Goku and Kakarot, just another fun little toy to play with of like, well, what if that were to happen instead?
Well, that's what Dragon Ball Heroes is touching on. They're like, all right, canon, goodbye. Let's just do all this random stuff, see what works. And dude, that's the thing. It's like you can argue about, but as long as it's a short and you're doing it, it's like what ifs. It's basically like fan fiction right there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly, and that's what I love about it. It's like, it's one of the things, right? Like it's one of the things. I think the thing is that people don't realize about so superheroes in general, like people like they get a bad rep from anime because like anime is a lot of the anime is the characters building up to their final forms, where superheroes are usually already at their final set, right? And I'm like, but then if you look for the hero stories, there's a lot of hero stories where the heroes do some really ridiculous shit. Excuse my language.
No, you're allowed to, it's a free speech channel.
Free speech, fair enough. So in this regards, is like when it comes to crazy stuff, one of my favorite ones is like, okay, Batman came up with like literally a bomb at one point, right? And to Apocalypse, and he was on Apocalypse. He went up to Darkseid and he said, "I'll blow it up unless you let us."
Yeah,
escape.
the thing with that was on Apocalypse, there's like these lava funnels that spew out of the core, and Batman basically plugged them all and said he wasn't going to unplug it. And then Darkseid was like, "Oh, you don't kill people," and he was like, "I don't kill humans."
Oh, so Batman's racist.
He is racist as fuck.
Those aliens, man.
He's not racist. Technically, because
there are other alien races.
I don't think that was his actual reply. I think it was something along the lines of like, well, if Earth's going to go extinct, then I'm really out of options anyway. So we do have a limit to Batman's morality now.
Oh, mutually
assured. Like there is a limit to his morality. So it's like, well, if you're going to kill us all, like, so be it. Then I'm not going to go out alone. The idea of
Owlman as well, didn't he? When they had the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Crisis on Two Earths, actually, that was the Owlman.
Yeah, sorry, I was thinking of the actual animation.
Yeah,
because that was called Crisis on Infinite Earth, wasn't it?
The animation is Crisis on Two Earths. Yes. The Crisis on Infinite Earths is an event. It's somewhat based off of that, but not 100%.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was only going off of the anime. As I said, I don't read comic books too much, so most of the knowledge I get is off of anime or the cartoons.
Well, here's the thing, guys. At one point, I remember when Mortal Kombat #1 came out, I went into like the comic store. I'm getting it. I'm like, I look around like, why isn't everybody flocking to it? And then it never took off.
Nope. And that's the thing, right? Like the big thing is with comics right now, the biggest problem you're running into is so marketing is not that great for it right now. And the other thing is like not only is marketing not great for it, it's comic shops are just kind of out of the way for a lot of like general audiences. As much as I love comics myself, I have to also admit like there's a lot of problems with the industry and how it's run that could definitely really could use a rework that would definitely like make them more popular and make more people go into them. Like one thing that worked out surprisingly well was when they did the Injustice comics for the Injustice games.
Yes.
Those are actually surprisingly much more popular than than DC thought they would be, and that's because there was a good
games. Or sorry to cut you off.
No, you're correct. That's exactly the reason why. Because most of the people gained an affiliation with them from actually doing the games first, and they wanted to read up on the actual stories because it's actually a really interesting stories on both games.
I watched all the cinematic cutscenes.
Yes, same.
Exactly, and like so, the thing is, the comic. So when you bought the game, you got the first issue or two of the comic for free.
Yeah.
With the game, so people have already invested, and the comic promised, "Hey, we'll tell you the 5-year story that leads up to this first game." Well, all right. Well, if I like the story in the game, I'm already sold.
Yeah.
Right? I want to know what happened that led to like this whole thing.
Actually, that's kind of like Dragon Ball Super. They kind of like tease with the movie. They put it out there. And it depending on the level of success, like that's why like the new upcoming Broly movie is going to be so important because depending on the reaction to that, it's like, well, we might bring it back if folks are really into it. And depending what Akira Toriyama wants to do, they're like, meh.
There's already the Super is coming back. They've already said that the reason why they've ended it the way that they ended it was because that they wanted to take time out to focus directly on the movie. After the movie comes out in December in Japan and January in the UK and the West, it then is going to be, I think, March or June when Super starts back up again.
Now, don't quote me. I heard rumors going around that the next actual Super arc after, because I'm not sure if they're going to adjust the Broly movie to episodes, but if they do that, then like after that, I think the next big villain is supposed to be, from what I understand, like angels. So like past the gods of destruction, past the gods of creation. Yeah, and I think that makes sense to me. Like if that's the next threat, because I mean, like if you follow the structure, obviously angels would be next. Like you can't really go beyond what
Whis and stuff like that. Well, let me ask you this. How much of like the community like do you think is actually influencing the series? Because big shout out to Mastar Media. You guys should check him out if you want to see Saitama battle Goku and stuff. But his Anime Wars series there, like when he went to like that Ultra Super Saiyan God, like basically the white hair, you guys can't tell me that doesn't look like Ultra Instinct Goku.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing, right? I mean, like,
and he was
there's hints that like there are hints that Akira Toriyama actually is fan of like the abridged series of Dragon Ball, like Dragon Ball Abridged, and
I love that,
and like things like that. And so I'm wondering if like part of these things that he's seeing on the internet are part of like what's influencing what he's doing in the series. Though he is also getting old, and he like it's funny because I heard a story recently where he had to be reminded of some of the characters that still exist in his show.
He completely and utterly forgot it. He completely and utterly forgot launch. Completely and utterly forgot launch. So
Launch no longer is there.
Super. He put it in.
Everyone loves Launch, but he forgot about it. That's why she never showed up in Z.
Well, isn't it one of those things when he kind of does some stuff? They're like, well, what about this? It's like, I don't think anybody questioned because he's the man. It's like, did he kind of forget about it? Or is he trolling us? Because he's a really smart dude as far as I know.
He forgets. He
actually forgot. He forgot Gohan had Mystic Gohan until like Super.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, midway through Super, that's why at the beginning he was always going to Super Saiyan 2 all the time.
Well, here's the thing. Even Grand Kai at one point, he's like, well, I could awaken Goku's hidden powered ultimate form, but that's going to take too long. And everyone's like, why has nobody thought of this before?
Because Goku wouldn't accept it anyway, because Goku's story is about hardship and being in adverse circumstances and training as hard as you can to become better than what you were.
And they actually proved with
Gohan
why.
Didn't he drink some magic water?
Like,
yeah, but the thing is with the magic water is that when he was climbing up, he was gaining power level. And
he
when
was thirsty.
But the actual magic water itself wasn't what made him stronger. It was the climb up and it was the climb down that made him stronger.
So the
water just has healing properties.
Yes.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah. Zenkai. Okay, I got you.
Zenkai boost. What is like the one thing that works for Goku in this regards is like because so they explain this with Gohan when Gohan tried to tap into the Mystic Gohan form. Like it's explained in Super that because he didn't attain it, like through hard training, he had to learn how to master it still.
Yeah.
Right. So once he learns how to master it by like the actual Battle of the Gods like by the Battle of the Gods tournament, he then like learns, okay, now that I've learned how to master it, like now I can utilize it properly. See, I can unlock that power for you, but if you don't know how to use it, like you're pretty much kind of like a hammer to glass rather than like
forging iron.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Exactly.
So it's just like, yeah. So it's just basically like he's basically a glass cannon rather at that point. It's like, yeah, I'm more powerful, but I don't know how to use it, so therefore I'm like just wasting it all.
Okay, okay. As somebody that identifies as a former 3-minute mage, arcane power, presence of mind, pyroblast from World of Warcraft, hey, it could be used in the right circumstances. But going back to that, and especially Super Saiyan God, all right, let me throw this out to the panel. Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Super Saiyan God? Yay? Nay?
Oh, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta?
Yeah, he had red hair.
I mean, whether or not he's a...
And he got powered up, and Goku initially got powered up by a bunch of Saiyans. So if you take all the Saiyans over the entire series that had lent him energy, I'm pretty sure it's 6. Because you had 3 right there, Gohan, Goten, Trunks. At some point, Vegeta was part of that. And at one point, Pan did, I think, give him energy as well during GT's series. So if you count it up, you'd have a total of 5 Saiyans giving 1 Saiyan power upon the fusion.
And I'll take it from a Scotsman. Being a ginger is not a source of power.
Hey, I miss my beard.
I would have to actually disagree with probably most people on the panel. I'd actually say that Super Saiyan God Goku would actually be stronger than Gogeta. The reason why is Gogeta only lasts for 15 minutes at max.
I'll bet he does.
Okay. To be fair, Straight Sith Mail in the chat, he brings up a good point. Deadpool still wins. It's hard to argue with a carbonadium sword.
Okay, so you want to know how Deadpool dies?
Deadpool?
No. I mean, Deadpool did kill Deadpool. There's actually an arc of that. No, Deadpool dies. Very simple. If I have a disintegrating ray that like just literally disintegrates every little fiber being of him, what's the regenerate from?
Nothing.
Where does he disintegrate to?
Nothing. He just disintegrates. Disintegrate just means he's completely and utterly.
But don't most disintegrate rays just kind of turn you to dust?
Well, there is actually another thing, and this has bugged me for years. Is see if you freeze something and then thaw it out, the cells degrade, so they're not really the same cells anymore as far as the body's concerned. So actually freezing and then thawing Deadpool would be enough to kill him. The healing factor would try and heal his cells. It wouldn't fit to his cells anymore, and he would just
you just freeze him and throw him somewhere really cold. And
also, I mean, okay, here's the thing: Deadpool's still human, right? Even with his powers. And you want to know what his power set really is? Deadpool's power set is he has super cancer and a healing factor.
Yes,
he literally has 2 powers that like literally conflict with each other.
And a bottomless bag.
Yeah, the other thing is if you just gave him chemo to cure his cancer, that would make probably, I reckon that would throw a spanner in the works with the old healing factor. I reckon that would just fuck up his whole body.
Well, do you know what I always found really weird about Deadpool? I know it's to do with his character, and I know it's to do with writing, but if his cells are supposed to be able to regenerate, and his body and healing factor is supposed to be similar to Logan's or Wolverine's, why isn't it the case that his cells are able to regenerate his actual face and his burns?
Oh, because the cancer is fighting with the actual healing factor.
Deadpool is going through a little bit of a Superman thing at the moment in that it started out that he was just like a really, really good mercenary, like, Rambo or something like that, but he had a wicked sense of humor, and that was kind of it. It wasn't. He didn't even break the 4th wall until I think it was the 3rd arc of his his monthly series. After 2 mini-series, it was just he was really funny as a person. The situations he got himself into weren't all that funny. It was him that was funny.
Oh, he's a meme.
It got all pop culture-y, and they just ruined him, basically. Like, for want of a better word, they just ruined him, and now they don't know how to use him anymore. So they just do a Dragon Ball and up the healing factor thing without actually writing him any good stories.
Yeah. So, like, in my opinion, like, he hasn't been good since like Joe Kelly run, really.
Yeah, no, I agree.
because Joe Kelly knew how to like make sure the story was there, and not that the fourth, like Joe Kelly still put in the fourth wall jokes, but like he put them so sparingly that when they actually happened, they were genuinely funny, right? Like one of my favorite ones is literally where like Deadpool sees a guy and then he kills him, and he looks at him for like 2 seconds, and he's like, wait, you were an issue, and then he puts like the issue number, and then the guy turns to him and is like, what are you talking about? Don't worry about it.
Let's not ruin the archetype that I'm memeing right now. And to be fair, Deadpool, you want to know why he still has the scars? Because it's basically like a game. He just has a hard save at that moment where he got the healing factor.
Well, that might be part of it. The real reason he has the scars is because the cancer is constantly fighting with the healing factor. So it's like the scars are showing up and healing like so rapidly that it's like leaving blotches.
Ooh, that sounds like it would either feel really good or extremely painful.
Extremely painful. He's always in pain, isn't he?
Yep, he's always in pain.
Is that what makes him so funny?
Well, that was another thing they forgot about over the years, was that he is in relatively constant agony, and they just kind of forgot about that. Because that's partly why he's so unhinged.
Technicalities.
He wasn't crazy before. He's crazy not because the healing factor magically made him crazy, but because he's actually... It's partly guilt, and it's partly being in like massive amounts of pain all the time.
Yep.
Like if you want to know, like Deadpool's biggest secret is he became a mercenary because he was good at it. That's the biggest thing. Like one of the story arcs, one of my favorite story arcs from Joe Kelly's day was Deadpool thought he had a chance to be more like his actual favorite hero, Captain America. Like he actually was inspired by Captain America. He wanted to be like Captain America. And the government agency came up to him and said, hey, like you can save the world from aliens. And he's like, oh shit, I can be like Captain America. He goes to Captain America for advice the whole 9 yards. Right. And what is Captain America like? And what does he learn at the end? Oh, no. We don't want you to be a hero. We still want you to do the silent assassin thing, the thing you're good at. That's so heartbreaking. It's, oh, you don't want me to be a hero. You just want me to be a death machine still.
Yeah.
He was used.
Yeah. He was so sad.
That was one of the horrible things about Deadpool, is that he has such a, well, depending on what implementation or incarnation of him that they want to use, but the one that I know is that basically not his whole family, but the woman that he loves just doesn't love him anymore. Completely just the whole backstory for him is just so heart touching and just makes you feel for him straight away, and you wonder why he's doing the stuff that he's doing, and it kind of gives you an inkling. And I mean,
yeah, and then they turned him into fucking Seinfeld. Like,
oh, wow.
He was like this, if you don't laugh, you cry type figure, and then it's just like womp womp. Like that's it. That's all they've got left now.
Well,
but he's OP as fuck, and that's why it's like they ran out of cool situations and moral quandaries.
Yeah, I mean, he's almost kind of like PewDiePie when he's making a video or something. And Switchpoint, to go on to kind of just what you had just said there about him, it's almost as if this very pure form of power-based capitalism ruined him. It's this is what you're good at. This is what you're doing. He's like, oh.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Like, that's exactly what happened. And so,
well, like, it was the government that made him what he was, though.
Oh, the government market-based forces.
Well, okay, I want to point out how evil the Canadian government is in the Marvel Universe.
well, no. Is it the Canadian government, or is that base there kind of more like Gitmo?
I don't know, because I mean, like, they made Wolverine and they decided, hey, you have a healing factor, so we're gonna like put metal on your bones.
Well, wasn't that Stryker though? He was American, and it was Americans that funded it. It was just a case that it was on the border.
Well, that was what was so cool about the storytelling, because people, particularly with the recent developments in comics, with Comicsgate and everything like that, everybody's like getting fed up of political preaching in the comics, and then the creators are like, oh, but there was always political stuff in the comics, and then they would show like Cap punching a Nazi or something like that as if they're comparable. But anyway, one of the cool things was in the 90s, they were trying to basically say, hey, yeah, look, the Canadian government's evil. But actually, some of these guys just work for a corporation, which is owned by a bank, which is paid by the Canadian government. So they're all the same people, really. And it wasn't even the main part of the story. It was just a side thing. Because one of the people that approaches Deadpool is a bank. And the bank they help fund Weapon X.
Yes.
Like, exactly. And I love it because it was just funny just to see this, like, this Canadian government facility funded by America and Canada and like possibly Europe like creating like these weapons of mass destruction. And it's like, and the funniest thing is like they create some of like the bigger villains in like the Marvel universe. It's like, excuse me, while we create like Omega Red.
Wait,
And
so
it's like-
some big globalized corporation of like mercenaries created all these problems?
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It really
see,
is.
I
Good
absolutely
job, nothing like that happens in real life, eh?
Yeah, never happens in real life where they're making different fucking weapons of mass destructions. Never. See,
Well, I mean, like,
go on.
it's no different. Like Godzilla was like a reference to like the like it's no different. Right? Like these stories, these references. Like you have Godzilla and like the giant monsters who are references to like the Hiroshima bangs and things of that nature like that happened throughout the years of like of Japan and what happened in America and all that stuff during like the World War.
So
Well,
which
actually,
point you
that's-
just went up 10 points in my book.
You're welcome.
No, to be fair, in preschool, there literally is a point in my first progress report that says memes has stopped growling and begun to associate with the other children. Because at that point, they thought I was a dinosaur. To be fair, I was memeing Godzilla versus Megalon. I was kicking over some pine cones like those rocks in that scene where Godzilla's going to help.
Well, thanks, my man. The that was actually a fun story, but yeah, like the idea that these monsters are like a representation of like the bombs. Like, well, what if they weren't bombs? What if they were like just giant monsters of mass destruction? You know what I mean? Like that's awesome, right? It's just like it's how you do these type of things that actually makes them work, right?
Oh yeah, and it's got to be like we mentioned archetypes before. It's got to be something that you can't quite put your finger on because there's not a single person on this planet who doesn't know what these Marvel comics today are about. Well, DC are going the same way, but it's like they tell you exactly what it's about. They tell you why everything's happening, and they even reference specific political things like by name. It's like there's no interpretation there. That's why it's different.
Yeah, dude. No, they give shout outs and everything. And it's funny because we were talking about archetypes a little bit. And if you look at it, it's like you'll see different characters, and you might have like 100 different heroes, 100 different villains, but usually like they're not the exact same. They're all a little bit different. Some of them will hold certain qualities. So it's almost like you'll have like certain folks that are drawn to like maybe like Iron Man because he's wicked smart and Batman, but they're like, well, I prefer Iron Man because he's more witty, whereas other folks are more like, well, I like the darkness of Batman and Thanos and stuff like that. It's almost like you have these different circles just kind of encompassing like things that are popular.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely agree with that.
Some may say intersex.
I definitely would not say intersex. I definitely.
Well, I have to ruin everything.
Well, not everything. After all, you're not Adam, but you're getting there.
Wait, what? Oh, gee, gotcha.
I had to
well,
put it
I
in
mean,
there.
like, I have my issues with Adam ruins everything, and it's like
Wait,
in his
what?
character.
Oh,
Adam ruins everything from.
Adam.
No, I thought we were talking like Genesis.
Oh no,
No,
different.
Like not Stefan off Genesis.
I was actually playing off of your banter, sir.
No. So
Well
there's a
played,
character.
sir.
So
Well
there's a
played.
character like so Adam is like on True TV, and he used to be part of like a comedy group. I can't remember the name of the comedy group right now, but he has a show called
Campus
Adam
or
Ruins.
something, was it?
Huh?
College Campus or something, was it?
College Humor. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And so he made a show called Adam Ruins Everything. And the point of the show is it's supposed to be informative. There's problems.
Yeah, there's lots of problems, but that's going into politics way too much for this stream. But yeah, there's lots of problems with that.
That'd be one of those ones. If I decide to do commentary, that probably I might find the best one that I think I could do better commentary on from these episodes.
Well, it's funny how many things we can extract here. That's why I always piss off a Mr. Cabbage Patch when I say #gamer theory. According to a man on the internet that's speaking here right now, gamer theory states that at some point, most every event in the course of humanity will be represented or modeled in some form of a game, movie, book, or other form of media. I think that might be true.
No, that's
Like-
definitely true. It's
Isn't
definitely-
that? I don't mean.
why-
I'm honestly not being flippant, but isn't that just stating the obvious? Like,
what
what else are we going to make?
Well, yeah, it's a very low resolution narrative.
Well,
no, I laugh because okay. So here's the thing: game theory works off of like really weird selective information for his theories.
I said gamer theory because it sounds cool.
Yeah, gamer. My game's a theory. So he has a theory of like, oh, Mario's mental because Mario hits the blocks in the Mushroom Kingdom. Because the blocks are the toads. But I'm like, clearly not all the blocks are toads, though. Because, like, the buildings still exist in this universe.
I thought Mario was kind of wacky because he ate a lot of mushrooms.
I mean, I thought so, too. But, like, let's be honest. I mean, if a mushroom makes you, like, bigger, I mean, there might be questions. But we don't know, like, the full physics of the universe.
Yeah, I thought those were pills. But I'm sorry that I would sidetracks.
Yeah. Still, I mean, like, it's hard to believe that all the blocks in this universe are toads, right? Because certain... Nice blue eyes, white dragon picture. So the all the things is like, well, if the buildings exist and like the blocks exist as like stepping stones and structures, then wouldn't it be like logical that Mario probably knows which ones are like actual toads and which ones are not toads? Right? Like, I don't think he'd purposely go after the ones that are toads. Heck, it even says in the manual he's going after Princess Peach because Peach is the only one that can undo the spell that made the toads into blocks. So he's knowingly going to save the kingdom.
Okay, so how many times, like, how many catfish Princess Peaches are there? Like, because I mean, every single cat. This is the wrong princess. These aren't the princesses you're looking for. I mean, what's the deal with that?
Well, I'm presuming like when he kidnapped the princess, he probably kidnapped a few for servants, for good measure.
No, yeah, you wouldn't want to just molest one princess. You want a couple of them.
If my girlfriend got kidnapped by a dragon and I saved like several different of her friends and hadn't even noticed, I think she'd be extremely pissed off with me, and I do not think there'd be a happy ending.
Yeah.
No, but you got to keep trying, and you got to get through that stage with all the bombs and the bullets and the flying airships. Ooh, airship.
Also, I have to say I'm sorry because CSG, I'm going to tell you right now, you might, because I mentioned just because I mentioned game theory and I actually tried to break down one of his theories and the problems with it, you might get fans coming to your comments later complaining about it. So I do apologize.
Yeah, I absolutely love the idea of game theory, because the reason with game theory or the gamer theory is a simple case of Jordan Peterson trying to explain that everything that can go wrong with humans is designed and probably created by humans. Hence why every story that's created by games or by people that create games are created by human invention, human initiative. And with those stuff we can create parallels.
That's why we don't create Ultron, because if all of a sudden an all-powerful AI comes to life and just does a quick...
you're talking about
what's the problem? Ooh.
Peterson's game theory. I thought you were talking about MatPat game theory, because I was mentioning the MatPat Insane as Mario game theory.
Oh no, I mean gamer theory from James Peterson.
Okay, yeah, no, that one is right. Like, that's a pretty obvious statement. But Peterson works off of obvious statements as part of it, like his philosophy of like obvious statements of like, and all like, but like not in a bad way. Like he talks about obvious statements. He also talks about pushing yourself forward and doing things for yourself theory as well, kind of thing. So like,
pretty good wizard.
Yeah, he's a wizard, man. Like, are you bringing it back? Are you bringing back wizard?
Oh no, that's what I told him.
Yeah.
I saw him live, and I told him he was a pretty good wizard. A person whom changes the world around them via verbal and semantic components, i.e. their words and actions.
Yes.
Exactly.
And then he put his arm around me for the photo, so he either really liked it or maybe thought I was special.
I mean, maybe he thought you were special. He might have been trying to secretly, like, do things, like trying to secretly, like choke you from behind, and you don't even know about it, right? Pay attention.
Photographic evidence.
Yeah, exactly. Man.
Well, I've got a question to the panel, if I may ask everyone. In all of the universes that we've been able to talk about today, including our own, what powers or what universe would you like to be in, and why? And if we start off with memes, and then we'll go to Switch Point, and then we'll go to Combo Point, and then I'll do an answer as well.
Naruto.
And why?
Just for the sheer fact, because I want to be Hokage.
Fair enough. But what powers would you have? Because obviously they have Pacific family genetics. So what sort of powers would you like from there?
I'm not going to lie, man. I'm partial to the nine-tailed fox.
Fair enough.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one to control, man.
So you would just want to be in an Anunnaki? Yeah, Anunnaki. Or would you like to be of a particular genetics with it as well, as in his dad was able to travel at the speed of, well, not the speed of light, but very, very quickly, and his mum was
The previous Jin Cherokee.
yes, Din Cherokee was an entrapper. Was really good at trapping things.
Trap, you mean?
I don't really care.
His mum was a trap.
Fair enough. I just wanted to get into depth because
No, fair enough. I mean, again, it's my answer to that response is just very low resolution.
Very low resolution. Like I'm gonna come in, everyone's 1080p. I'll be at 480.
yeah,
Screw that 144, my man. We got to boil it down.
Go down all the way. Like it's like I
am a pixelated Nokia brick phone. There you go.
Yeah, I'm on 32-bit. Fuck you all.
Like my sharp edges of like pixels will like cut you.
Switch point, your turn.
Oh, my turn. God, if I were to, that's a good question. Like, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna like put out a strange one, but I actually wouldn't mind being like in the Mushroom Kingdom or like just in the Mario universe, just because of like the idea of like these different worlds or these different like continents and like just like how wild that universe is and like what happens in that universe is just ridiculous. Clearly gravity doesn't work the same way, and clearly like abilities don't work the same way there. So like I'd like to definitely it would be like a weird place to study. Like so I mean because no matter who I choose to be, I'm a normal person there, but like I'd have like the powers that would be granted to anybody that's there, because clearly those powers not only affect Mario, they also affect Bowser, Peach, anyone who uses them and who has the skills to use them. So it's one of those things. So it doesn't matter who I choose to be while I'm there. It'd just be interesting, like to study it and like be part of that world to some degree. You know?
Yeah, fair enough.
Dude, you go to Giant World and you could have turtle soup for days.
I know, right?
I prefer the word turtleneck personally, but fair enough.
What about mock turtle soup?
Yeah,
I like turtles.
Snapping turtles. Is that the only reasons why that you would like to study it, or?
Well, I mean, like, and also like just see how these powers. Like, I'd like to see how these powers work for myself, and like, who knows? Maybe I'll become like. I mean, I wouldn't be a Mario Brothers because I'm not related to the Mario Brothers, but who knows? Maybe I could like be just as like. Maybe I could like forge my own adventure while I'm there as well. You never know, right?
Be part of the Switch Point sisters.
Haha! There you go. There you go. I mean, I might have to ask Crumple to come with me because I mean, like, we're the Point Brothers and the Point
I ain't
Brothers.
being a sister of anything, but yeah, I'll come with you.
Yeah,
I'm basing on the Avatar. I'm sorry.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
It'll be like
Wonder
Paper
Woman?
Mario, where like instead of changing dimensions, you change your gender.
That could work. That could work. Like,
I swear they think that's how it works, like in real life these days.
like, they like to think that like every minute I could just change my gender, just every minute somehow.
With the flick of a Wii remote.
Pretty much.
So, Crumple Point, your last turn. What would you like to be and why?
Well, I think, given just from the ones we mentioned, I think I would just like to be in the DC multiverse, probably Earth Prime, just because it's the main one. And if powers are a thing, I don't know if I'd want a power, but I'd certainly want trained by like one of the big crazy martial arts people like Richard Dragon or Ra's al Ghul or something like that. And because see, if you could acquire powers from people from there, but if you get the training first, and then you can have like a happy accident that gives you powers.
Like
that's fine.
Doctor Strange has a lot of training.
Yeah, that's the reason why he is Sorcerer Supreme.
He is also
training. Like, he was chosen. Like
he's also amazing at yoga.
Yeah. Especially
that's why the ladies like him. You know his yoga skills.
So, is there any particular reasons why? As you said, I know you want to do the training, and then hopefully there's a happy accident. I mean, I call that sex personally, but
well, I don't know. It's like it seems the least wacky of the universes, and the closest to reality, but with just enough, craziness to keep it interesting. So it's like it's basically our universe, but a bolt of lightning might give you superpowers. That seems good to me.
Fair enough. I suppose moving on to me, I would actually be in the same universe as Crumple Point. I'd like to be in a DC universe. Don't really care about. I want to be in Earth Prime universe. I want to be in that section of the multiverse. But I would probably be either the Green Lantern, or I would be. I can't remember the name for the Anger Lanterns.
Red Lantern.
Yeah, but I can't remember. Yeah, the Red Lanterns. Sorry. I'd like to be either green or red. Either use my will or use my anger. That would be me. The reasons why is because, as quite rightly as Crumple points out, I think it's the most realistic universe out of all of them. If you were to have similar aspects to it,
yeah, because it's kind of like ours, but you get rewarded for being exceptional. You know, it's not like complete random chance or physics makes no fucking sense like in Mario.
Yeah, definitely. Or in fucking Dragon Ball Z. They're going to punch through the universe. How can somebody be that strong to generate that much force that they're going to tear through the fabric of the universe?
Hey, it would take at least 3 punches. So that's less than 1 Punch Man.
Punch!
I love that song. And actually, the last song I got was the Ultra Instinct, aka Ultimate Battle theme. Sorry, saws are going off. But from Caleb Himes, it was well worth the $1.
Oh yeah, that was well, I mean, like he did a nice English rendition of it. It was I saw that and it was really good. But also like the original theme itself was just really good in general. Like the actual like because the actual guy that they got was like is a professional like he's an actual like part of a professional band in Japan. So he was just like yeah, and you can tell he had a good time with that for sure.
I'm going to be ending the stream a little bit earlier than normal. I mean, we normally do something like a last word type thing. We're not going to do that just yet. I think we can carry on the conversation for probably about 10-15 minutes, but it's just to give a forerunning to people. I wanted to give a bit of a structure to the last word for a change and go on why you would pick why you've picked your favorite characters and why. So, say for instance, somebody likes Goku, for instance, from Dragon Ball Z. Explain the reasons why you like it and the reasons why it got grabbed to you and things like that, and the reasons why you like comic books or the actual anime or whatever for later on. I think that would be a good way to end. But the conversation itself, I thought, was doing quite well. We were talking about mushrooms and Mario and saving princesses, I believe.
Yes.
I believe so.
And how you should really, really know what your girlfriend looks like before you try and date her.
Yes.
Well, to be fair, before he eats the mushroom, he's not the tallest guy, so it might be hard to see.
No, I don't know. Luigi's not.
Maybe
too
he's
bad.
just like taking what he can get because it's just he can't get a date from being that height.
Does that mean that we're talking about somebody that's kidnapping a princess that's trying to re-kidnap a princess for his own nefarious points? So all we're talking about is literally the demigration of women. To take a woman, you have to take a woman.
Mario's a misogynist?
Never. After all, he's Italian.
Oh, we're stereotyping. All right.
Well, we were talking about archetypes before, so what's wrong with a little bit of stereotyping an archetype?
It's a type.
I noticed everybody's gone quiet. I did something wrong.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. No, I assumed I probably should go first. As far as powers and stuff, I mean, I do really like the whole like Naruto thing, just kind of like seeing him from like a kid that just nobody likes and he's unsure why, and he finds out he's special. Why? Oh, maybe because the entity in him kind of started destroying the village before and kind of led to like the end of his mom and dad. So you're going to have that guilt factor there. But the sheer fact that you are the legacy, you can do better. And the sheer fact just his entire life, he was just like, I want to be Hokage. And he eventually achieved it. I haven't really watched the Boruto stuff yet, but just even like when he was harnessing the power, the Nine Tails, he had to battle against it. Even when he's just got the help from Octopops and everything, he's in there battling. And it's fucking still the Nine-Tailed Fox is basically an engine of destruction. It's a kind of an equivalent archetype to like a Blue Eyes White Dragon or an Ultimate Dragon because it's got multiple phallic orifices. I'm sorry, patriarchy.
I mean, the thing that I like about Naruto is the fact that when Naruto meets the Sand, well, the boy who ends up becoming the Sand Hokage,
Gaara.
yeah, Gaara. When he meets Gaara, you can see in which way that he could have gone, Naruto could have gone, as in the fact that he could have gone down that path of using his power for bad and wickedness and making people follow him and making people forced to be his friend and things like that. But he never did that. He wanted to win people over by his own means, by his own cause. He wanted to be a decent person, and the reason why Naruto is such an amazing story and such a gripping story is the character development, the development of character, and the proof of the strong bonds that the characters all possess and prove. You get invested in the characters. You want Naruto to rescue Sasuke. You want them to become friends again. You want Sasuke and Sarada to become boyfriend and girlfriend. You want Naruto and Hayate to become boyfriend and girlfriend. And in fact, they obviously do at the end. But
it does have an amazing. I'm sorry,
yeah, it's just the way that everything evolves and the way everything changes. And even though you have the little bit of arcs that generate, you still have the original stories and the original character developments that are still going into place. The actual person who wrote Naruto is absolutely amazing at being able to develop humanistic characteristics. Not too great at drawing feet, though.
It's all right. That's another discussion. But dude, I
went to the Liefeld School of Anatomy. It's a very prestigious organization.
No, it's a case that he hated drawing feet, so he always drew them with sandals on it. It's something that Naruto fans would know. They never draw barefoot.
Doing feet well probably involves math, which is hard. So I'm just gonna kind of go with that. And dude, I tend to think that like of all the animes I've watched, and again, it's only very limited, Naruto is the greatest tale that I have like ever seen, because just even that concept of just wanting to save somebody who even will try to kill you, just that's a huge thing. And just I think it all boils down to being
if my stream
there's a knock at the door. There's people coming in
now.
Hey, no, that's my alarm clock. I want to be Hokage.
I want to be Hokage. See, I love that as well. That the fact that the simple thing from Naruto is that they didn't try to make him overpowered. They didn't try to make him a god or god tier or he's a Superman or anything else like that. The reason why he fights is because he wants to protect his village, because he wants to protect his loved ones, because he wants to protect the people he cares about. I think that's such an emotional, amazing connection that you can get through the writing of an animation or a manga at one point. But I absolutely love that about Naruto. I think that's why Naruto, if I was going to be honest, I think is one of the best written animes out there.
That's fair.
I've actually not seen it, so I'll need to get around to that.
It's
Yeah, fair enough.
You've certainly sold it to me.
I'm glad. I probably have talked more passionately about Naruto than I did Dragon Ball Z. But yeah, I love Dragon Ball
Blu-ray
Z.
available on Amazon.
I have to say that at a glance, I do find Naruto far more interesting.
Yeah, Naruto
Like,
is
just
more.
at a glance of like, what if you were, giving me the box set and I had to watch one of them, despite having watched Dragon Ball Z already, I would still be like, I'll give this other one a try. I think the next one I'll watch will be One Punch Man.
750 episodes.
Yeah, no, Naruto is definitely one of the best ones out of the two. You just get so emotionally invested into the characters. You want them to do well. You want them to find each other. You want them to do bits and pieces. In fact, at some points, you even feel not like crying, but you feel emotionally drained with them, where they're so. So should we say challenge where they can't get to anything, like Hayate when she was fighting against
Neji, yeah, her cousin.
No, not even Neji, not even that one. The one that had the force power, the puppets.
Oh yeah, Pain.
Pain, that's the one. Pain. When she was fighting
dude.
Pain, and she was doing it and confessing her undying love for him, and then he just goes completely and utterly fucking angry and just lets the fox completely take over because of sheer anger and annoyance.
Yes, he thinks she's dead, man. He literally murders her, her in front of him.
Yeah, he completely lets go of the fox power to the point where the people that are supposed to be able to protect him from that transformation can't even control him by trying to use the normal bits to control him in. And the pendant that he has around his neck, though, is another way of him being able to control it. Just gets completely destroyed because of how much anger that he has built up for that at that moment in time.
Oh, the seventh seal, and he's just like, "Fuck this shit, crush."
Yep. It's just completely amazing animation. If anybody wants to watch it, I recommend watching the Pain series. It's very, very good. To be fair, the whole Akitsuki. The whole that whole saga is absolutely amazing from start to finish because it involves having Sasuke and his brother as well involved in that as well. And that's an amazing story as well. The fact that his brother was to do something against the village, but he did it to protect his family. And then eventually Sasuke finds everything out, but Sasuke hates him for doing everything that way. Just an amazing anime. There's so many different stories, so many different interactions that are going on all at once, and they all integrate into one massive story and feature that is just Naruto. It's just amazing, the anime, the writing of it anyway.
Mighty push.
Well, I think I plugged Naruto for long enough. Let's move on to somewhere.
Well, you know, it's just you gotta plug it when you gotta plug what you can. Now, as for me, I mean, that's a tough decision. I mean, like I like there's a lot of things I do like. You know what I mean? Like because I mean, the thing is like my things are varied. Because I touch on both anime and American comics, but I also touch like on other things too, like animation and stuff. So like for me, I like the mediums altogether. Like I love the creativeness that you'll see from all of them, like that can vary in differences. Sometimes it's because the characters are compelling. Sometimes it's the adventure or just like what you learn from the overall story. Like kind of like life lessons, things of that nature, that are all just like that are part of the compelling that are just part of that compelling nature. So like with Goku, it's that strive of Goku becoming better, but like with Superman, it's that constant, you know, like be the best person you can be type of thing. Like when it comes to like, you know, like always try to be a good person, and then with something like you know, with something kind of like video games, it's, you know, it's like putting your skill forward to see like nothing feels better than like doing showcasing your skill and doing something like you never thought you'd be able to do, like that crazy, well, let's say like the crazy triple jump to do that crazy jump like in a Mario game to get that like secret star that you didn't even know existed, but like you did it and you got there kind of thing, you know. Those type of stuff, like that's the kind of stuff I enjoy doing, you know what I mean? Like that's like all of them kind of like assemble that part of like what I enjoy, you know.
Yeah.
That's me though. You know, like I think I just enjoy nerddom in general.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Contrapoint?
With me, it's definitely, well, I think we all picked our favorite universe to be in based on our favorite heroes in that universe, and so mine's is the DC universe, and it's got to be Batman. And the interesting thing about it is like there's so much to like about the DC universe, but like Batman always stood out for me. And part of the fun is I actually don't know quite why. You know, like I'm spending a lot of time trying to work out what is it about this character and his adventures and trappings that has just evoked such a reaction in me that I'm completely obsessed. You know, it's because you know, you don't pick that; it jumps out at you, and then you kind of have to work out why it jumped out at you. Because like I was exposed to like most of the superheroes at the same time, so what was it about this one that I've never been able to shake it? As far as I don't know quite why, but like, you know, as far as the things I do know, it's just I like the fact that he's got no actual powers to speak of. I like the fact that it's crime he fights. I think that's a very relatable thing and something that you can automatically... Everybody can get angry and annoyed and sympathetic about that, you know? Because we all have to deal with it, even if it's just reading about it or whatever. And then the other thing is just the aesthetic of it, like, you know, the darkness of the city and his tactics and all that sort of stuff, his attitude towards things. I think it's I just like that aesthetic. Maybe not the healthiest way to go about being sane, but it is definitely a good aesthetic.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody gets entranced into the different stories. I mean, one thing that we've all talked about today is what stories have captivated us and the characters that are in the stories. Regardless of what universes we've used, and regardless of what characters that we've gone for, it's the stories that we tend to try and relate to. It's the stories that we try and put ourselves into, or try to make ourselves empathize more with them. And the more I think that we can empathize with the stories and engage with the characters or the character building, I think the more that people get attached to the stories. And I think that's why the different superheroes get different people that can relate to them, because different people see different characteristics in those stories that relate to them or can empathize with them more. And that's the reason why people pick up on it. I do love the idea.
Like, sorry, I forgot this final word time. My bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing that we actually have the ideas of different stories from different cultures, from different parts of the world. Remember, going all the way back to cave painting is going to be able to tell stories about what's going on in the world, what's politically active in the setting of what you're trying to do, what you're not trying to do, or you're not trying to put political points in, but you just can't help be in it anyway because it's in the back of your mind. I think those type of stories are absolutely amazing. I think the storybooks for comics and anime, manga, whatever else you want to call it around the rest of the world is absolutely amazing. Games in itself is amazing. If anybody else wants to carry on with a final word, then please do, because we are running a bit early. So if you want to carry on, please do. So Crumple Point.
Oh yeah, one thing that you said that like really jumped out at me was about how you said different things sort of entrance different people, and I kind of think that's a good way of thinking about it, because, you know, a lot of people said of like the key to wisdom is to know yourself, and I think it was Socrates kind of popularized that one and all that. And I think it's like you're not finished as a person, and you've got to kind of work yourself out as you go through life. And if you can find things that really get your juices flowing, like, you know, a superhero story or whatever it might be, if you can find one and then work out what it is about that, because you're not finished, you're not a complete person, so there's probably something in that you need, and if you find out what it is and use it, you'll probably do quite well for yourself. And that was what I was thinking off the back of what you said.
Yeah, perfect. Does anybody else have anything else that they would like to add, not to start a conversation with, but just to add to a point as a final word?
I mean, no, I think we're good here, personally, myself.
Yeah, sure.
What about you, Memes? You had anything to add to that?
I'm guessing not. Go on, Memes, go on. Dick.
I want to be Hokage.
Well, okay then. With that being said, see you guys all again soon. Thank you very much, and thank you to my panel for coming on today. It was very interested in talking to you, and maybe we're doing something very similar to this next week if both of you want to come on again. And obviously, I extend that invitation to Memes as well. So with that being said, goodbye for now. See you all again real soon.